Everybody, it's Hussein Kabani, your favorite broker. And in this video, I want to talk to you about, is it actually worth being a landlord in 2025? Let me just start with my experience here right now. So we have a couple of properties that we're landlords on. And for the most part, we don't actually have any issues. I think we have really good tenants. They don't really bother us. They pay their rent on time. And for the most part, we have like pretty new type of properties. So there's nothing really going wrong with these properties, thank God. We had a little bit of a plumbing issue in one of the bathrooms and there was some water leaking down. The tenant approached me, but then didn't tell me anything else about it. They said they're gonna get it fixed. So I trust them. I guess it's fixed and they didn't give me a bill. So it's awesome. But yeah, so that's been our experience so far. Personally, as being landlords, we haven't really had any issues with it. And in terms of like other people's experience, last year we did about 38 leases and we really haven't had any issues with the tenants that we have placed. I really think it's credited to, over the years of doing the leasing and honestly making some of these mistakes, that we have a very tight, and I want to call it almost bulletproof screening system that we keep advancing. By putting people through this, I think that we are able to get better quality tenants, even though it might take a little while longer. Honestly, we might rent it out for a little bit less, but we get a better quality of a tenant, which leads to not having any issues or minimum type of issues moving forward from that. So far, it's been a pretty positive experience for us and our clients for the most part. I mean, the biggest issues that we've had, even from doing all the leases last year, is I think two of the people, and it never happened to us before, but two of the people last year basically just said, hey, we signed a 12-month contract. We know we did that. But our circumstances have changed. One lost a job, one had family issues back home and they had to leave, and they just needed to exit the lease early. But they both worked with us in order to make that happen. It was a real pain in our butt to try to figure out and line everything up, but it worked out. The landlords weren't at a loss. We might have been a little bit out of a loss, but the landlords weren't at a loss and everything kind of worked out, as annoying as it was. So we really didn't have much issues. And I just want to highlight that because most of the time when I talk to people about, hey, maybe you shouldn't sell your house, maybe you should be refinancing it and renting it out, the first pushback I get is that, hey, we hear horrible stories about tenants. It happens out there, but I don't know, we run into really good tenants. There are really good people out there that rent properties and for whatever reason they want to be a renter, and I think that's perfectly fine. But there are really good people out there. I think it's just those few people out there that give everyone a bad name. So I think if we do the correct screening, for the most part, we should be okay. Over the past, let's call it even 1 year, what have we seen in terms of demand and price? So we've actually seen the demand come down for rentals, okay? And that is also because there's a lot more rentals, especially in the areas that we're working in. Like if we look at Pickering and we look at the Seton area, there's a bunch of these townhouses that were sold to investors. And these investors, obviously when they close, they're all renting them out. Even if we look at projects like Universal City at Bailey and Liverpool area, a bunch of these units are gonna come up for lease. Well, what ends up happening when you have all of these units closing all together and everyone is looking for a tenant? Well, you have all this, all this inventory and not as high of a demand, especially because we have less immigration and obviously not a lot of people looking for places to lease anymore. You're going to put a downward pressure on price. So that's what we've seen. So we've seen, more inventory for rental listings available. We've seen a downward pressure on price. And even if we look at some of the townhouses in like, say, that Seton area, we've probably seen the rent come down about, anywhere between $100 to $300 depending on the type of property it was. And even with the condos, we've seen it come down somewhere in and around that range, maybe a little bit less, but we've still seen that come down. And in terms of like the quality of the tenants that we're getting right now, I want to almost say that we actually have currently, as we speak, we have 4 listings on the market right now for lease. And I would say like maybe 75% of the people that apply, we basically really don't want to deal with them. And 25% of them are good. And what I mean by that 75% is that, hey, it could be okay to deal with these people, but there's too much of a risk because of the way that the landlord tenant board is. I feel that if the landlord tenant board had a little bit more of the back of the landlord, we would probably take a little bit more chances on these people that need homes. They're probably really, really nice people. And maybe they're just a little bit over leveraged because of decisions that they've made, but they have good cash flow, but their credit has been a little bit bruised by that. And there are profiles I look at and stories I hear and, you know, families needing homes. And unfortunately, because of the way landlord tenant board is, I hate to say it, but we have to just kind of say, no, we're looking for more of a cleaner profile over here because if something happens to go wrong, landlord tenant board is not going to help us. And I think that is something that landlord tenant board should be looking at and helping kind of change, because we could actually help more people get into properties in a more smoother manner and give more people a second chance if they need that. And even in our personal situation, like there's a house that my brother and I own, we leased it out, and maybe if it was for one of my clients, I would probably say, I don't know about this, but I met the guy. I had a really good vibe off of him. He could give me a story about what happened and how it was and whatever else, and I believed him, and we gave him a chance, and we said, yeah, okay, fine, we'll lease to you. And because it was my own house, my own brother's house, we decided, yeah, we will give this guy a chance because we'll deal with the repercussions if something goes wrong. But the nicest guy, like really, really nice guy, and we're so happy that we gave him a chance, and he's so happy that we gave him a chance. I think there could be more success stories like this if landlord tenant board in Ontario just had a little bit more of the back. And again, not to get too sidetracked, but how is it possible that if you rent out a property and the person doesn't pay you rent for 6 months, the landlord tenant board is still saying, that's okay. You are an investor, that's your problem. Something really, really, really needs to change over here, okay? So that's my rant again about basically landlord tenant board. Now let's talk a little bit more about like financing and does it actually kind of make sense? Well, see, it's starting to make a little bit less sense. And I've talked about this before, especially in Ontario. Like, see, say example, the townhouse that we bought, okay? We bought it for like say $625,000 or $650,000. And maybe that townhouse with property taxes, mortgage, insurance, basically costs us at this point right now, say $2,900, $3,000 to basically carry, okay? And we're getting about $3,000, $3,100 for this property. So, okay, we're either in a break-even position or we're slightly a little bit positive cash flow, but don't get mistaken, that positive cash flow is going right to pay the taxes that the government thinks we earned on this property, but that's a different story. But if you go to look at the properties here right now, does it actually make sense for you to buy a townhouse and rent it out? I don't know, I'm very skeptical about that. So what, you're gonna go buy a townhouse for $900,000, maybe your total operating cost on this thing is gonna be about $4,500, and you're gonna rent it out for $3,000 and take a negative hit of $1,500 a month? Does that really make sense? Well, maybe you could have justified it if you saw a rate of appreciation of 15% year over year. You could be like, all right, fine, you know what, it's for savings, I'm gonna dump the money in there, but my property is appreciating, you know, 90 grand a year, like, let's go. It's not happening like that, guys, and I have a hard time believing that it's going to appreciate like that, or even if it does, I don't think it's a long-term strategy. So let's get that right, guys. If you're an investor, I need you to please get your head out of the sand and stop to think that this is that market where you can buy something and flip it in 2, 3, 4, 5 years and make a profit. Just get that out of your head. It's not gonna happen, okay? And if it does, it's gonna be a fluke, and it's not a long-term strategy. Investors are a long-term player in real estate, okay? What do I mean by long-term? I'm saying minimum, you gotta be in it for 10 years. Like that's the goals I have, 7, 10 years, like minimum. I'm looking at buying stuff for 15, 20, maybe even beyond my life, that this is actually gonna be a good property to purchase. So does it make sense to buy a single door right now? I would probably say no, it doesn't. Does it make sense to buy some kind of a duplex, multiplex? 100%, especially because in some of my videos, I'm starting to talk about the YOLO lifestyle of the younger generation that's coming up. And we're kind of seeing a bit of a resistance for multiple reasons of why they don't want to purchase real estate. Well, are we going to have a nation of renters at this point? Quite possibly. Can you capitalize on that by being ahead of that curve a little bit right now and trying to snatch up some of these multiplexes? I think they could be a good strategy. We're going to look into this a little bit further, as opposed to buying more residential real estate in Ontario as I was. I'm starting to change my mind about it based on what I see the demographics doing that are coming up right now. So it's starting to seem like, hey, there might be a good long-term play. Guys, keyword, long-term play. Don't think you're going to buy this thing in 2 years. You're going to be like, oh, wow, it's such a great thing. You're probably going to be like, wow, what the heck did I do? But if you look at it down for 10, 15, 20 years, I think it's going to be a really cool investment. That's what I think right now. We'll do some investigations and get back to you on that one. The other thing also is that maintenance and how do you deal with this? So, you know, you obviously want to do your due diligence on what you're buying. Obviously, we have newer properties, so we don't have problems with roof, windows, plumbing issues, electrical issues, that type of stuff. All of our properties that we have are, I believe, 5 years or less right now. The only one that I have older right now is a commercial unit, and it's a commercial unit. Like, that's TMI. If you get into commercial, you'll know. So it's basically base rent plus taxes, maintenance, and insurance. I think that's a smart way of kind of investing in real estate, is through commercial real estate if you buy the right pieces, right? Because guess what? Base rent, you're getting your base rent. And guess who's paying taxes, maintenance, and insurance? I don't care what that guy does at that property. If that costs me more in maintenance, guess who's paying? Tenant, TMI, okay? A little side note over there. So yeah, that's what I would say. So to sum it all up over here, do I think it's a good idea? Yeah, I think it is a good idea, but what is a good idea for? I think it's a good idea for the right type of property for you to purchase, and you also have to have the right mindset in order to do this, okay? So long-term thinking, you gotta be smart, you gotta be watching the market, and you gotta know when to pivot. I love having these conversations, as you guys can tell. I think I've probably gone on for 5-7 minutes rhyming all of this out to you nonstop. So you can tell I'm passionate about this, and I want to have more conversations like this. So if you guys want to have a conversation about this, multi-residential, investing in real estate, not that I want to try to sell you something, maybe we can have a conversation and we could share opinions about what we see happening over here. I would be more than happy to do that. It would be a good conversation for all of us to have. Feel free to reach out to me. My Calendly link is going to be below somewhere here on this page. So click on it. Let's book an appointment. Let's have a chat. I really hope that you guys like this video. Actually, physically go ahead and like it. Share it with your friends, and most importantly, guys, subscribe. I think I make awesome content, and I'm almost at 5,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I think I need like 150 or 200 more, so I would love to see that 5,000 number. So please help me out, subscribe. Until next time, guys, remember one thing: get Cabani, get sold.
Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold. Sell it, sell it, sell it, sell it, sold.